And that way,
Did you
can get out of the way if it's coming down.
There's only one human being that we know of in history who's ever been struck by space debris. It was a woman in Oklahoma, I think. You remember that, Don? And she got grazed on the shoulder by a piece of a Delta rocket. And her advice was, if you see it coming, you should run. That was it. That was her advice. That was very direct.
And I should have told her that before that happened. Apparently
Yeah,
she knows it now. If she'd asked me, I'd have said,
Jimmy's gonna start running ads. If you've been struck by pieces of the weather satellite,
you should have asked me.
Yes. All right. Now look.
It's kind of like that old doctor joke. Well, doctor, it hurts when I do this. Well, don't do that.
Survey out from Gallup and USA Today. 8 out of 10 say we're in a recession. 6 out of 10 say the economy a year from now will be the same or worse than it is now. People are really, now the debate is over recession or depression, not whether or not we're in a recession. And you have the president saying in a speech this week that he will proudly claim the mantle of class warrior. If you want to call him a class warrior, because he's defending, he says, the middle class, he'll wear that as a badge of honor. Is this the right thing for him to be doing?
Let me jump in, I guess, quickly, because I know Trish is getting ready to give an answer, but I thought for a second, look, I don't like it. I find it personally offensive, and for a couple of reasons. One, I'm never sure which class I'm in, because I really don't think I have any class. But if you take the class where it bothers me, and this isn't just some jingoistic, patriotic thing where I say, oh, we're all part of America and we're all citizens. It's just that every class, every caste has its place. Rich people have to actually do a lot of contributing to charities because they've got excess funds and they need to for tax credits, so they serve a place. Rich people invest in businesses that help give us all jobs, so they ain't all bad. There's some things that are bad about them that I don't like. I don't want to hang around with them, but I sure do enjoy what they do for us as a capitalistic society. And plus, they give us a chance to look up to somebody, to have goals. Every single one of us in this room wants to one day be Louis Barrios. Mm-hmm. So we aspire to his success in what he's done. But on the other hand, the other classes serve well this country. So I hate to see a president to say, even if he thinks it, I hate to see him say it out loud.
Is the problem, Trish, that we're allowing rich people to keep too much of their own money?
Well, I think Jimmy makes a very good point. I don't think any presidents should label themselves a class warrior, because you're right. There are contributions across the spectrum. What I get really upset about, and partially because we all here are entrepreneurs and have our own businesses, we know how hard we work. We know that it's not just an 8-hour-a-day job, that sometimes it's 10, sometimes it's 12, sometimes it's 60-hour work weeks, and we do what we have to do. And yes, we make a good income for ourselves off of that. But why are we punished? Mm-hmm. Because we're working hard and we're creating jobs for people. Why are corporations such big, bad, horrible people?
Have you ever noticed, Louis, how many politicians, including our president, refer to rich or wealthy people as fortunate?
Yeah.
Like you just lucked into your money. Well, any of us could be you, but you just got lucky.
Well, Jimmy did give me a nice compliment, but really it was my mother who worked 7 days a week till 11:30.
Was that luck?
100 hours. That was not luck. She gave up her whole life for 30 years after the death of my father so that we could have a future and a hope. Mm-hmm. She didn't make any money. When she died, she finally had a little money in the bank to buy her house. Before then, she would say, son, I'm almost out of cash, and I've got my water bill, my electric bill, and I would have to transfer money. So she literally gave up her life building a business starting with $3,000, and we became wealthy when she gifted it to us.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now here's the problem with class warfare. The restaurant industry is the largest employer of 16 to 24-year-olds,
right.
And 60% of our 13 million labor force are between the ages of 16 and 26. So when they raise minimum wage in the name of helping the poorer class, all they do is price these young people out of the marketplace, right. Mm-hmm. Because we don't look at it as a minimum wage, we look at it as a training wage. Right. That's when we start investing in these young people and put them on the right trajectory.
Right.
You raise the minimum wage, Now they're out of the marketplace. We do without them. And what does a 16 to 24-year-old do without a job with excess time? Instead of getting on the right trajectory and being trained by my family and my
That was
industry.
beautifully said, Louis. In fact, Karen, I would vote for any of the three people in this room right now if they were running for president. The polls are upside down. Wait till the new poll comes out. That was very well said. I agree with you. This is what Governor Romney said on the class warfare issue last night. If we can play cut 10 real quick. Yeah, blessed. Lucky. What another way of looking at it is there are people, and we talked a lot about this on the show this week. There are people who own what they have. They may not have items we would envy. Maybe their car is 20 years old or something, or their house is modest, but they own it. They live within their means. They don't have debt. They're not beholden to debt. They're not trying to keep up with the Joneses. That's a kind of wealth.
Sure.
They're secure in their finances. They know they can make it. When a bill comes, they pay it because there's actually money in the checkbook all month long, not just once a month. I mean, that's a kind of wealth in a way, right?
Yeah, do you actually know somebody like that, Jack?
A few, yeah.
Okay.
But I mean, to me, we've become an owe it versus an own it society. And you can find some very wealthy people who are in hock. Jimmy, I'm sure you've seen that experience where the more successful somebody becomes, the deeper in debt they go because they're trying to keep up with the people they pal around with. And on the other hand, you can have somebody like my dad who never made in his whole life more than about 30 grand a year.
You just answered the question
but
there.
stayed within his
Our
means.
parents. Our parents
Our
all
parents
lived
did
like
this.
that.
Yeah.
Well, you know,
Yeah.
we grew up on the South Side. We went to Catholic schools. We didn't go on fancy vacations. My dad only had 2 vehicles his whole life. Neither one of them had air conditioning. He was in radio, TV, newspaper all at the same time, upper middle class. And when he died, he was killed in a traffic accident to a drunk driver. And we went from upper middle class to lower middle class. Nothing changed for us except for the fact that my dad wasn't there because we were raised so limited.
Right.
We were loved immeasurably, but we were raised limited. So we didn't miss anything because we didn't really get anything because they lived in their means, within their means.
A lot of ways to define that. We're back with Gang of Four on a Friday morning. More from the gang and with you at 599-5555. And also coming up, the author of a book. Look, if you were ever in high school, I don't care what decade you went to high school in, it was always the same. The new book, Go Mutants, by the guy that wrote I Love You, Beth Cooper. We'll talk to him in our noon hour on KTSA.
Hey, you're watching the Jack Riccardi Show on 550 KTSA.
Then you realize once you go there, it's like, no, this is
All right,
the
Karen,
South.
big weekend plans?
The antebellum South.
Yeah.
No?
Yeah, I know.
No, not really. I was hoping you did. The way
Yes.
the way this bit was going
And
to
very
work is you were going to have
Winston's.
something interesting and we were going to... Yeah, it's a little late now. We'll put our heads together on that next time. All right.
My advice is be outside. If you see it coming, run.
I rest my case.
I like the at the end.
I rest my case. There's somebody who thinks
Why
just
is
like
there
I do.
why is there advice to be outside? I would think you want to be inside.
No, because when you're inside, you can't see it
You
coming.
can't see it
Don't-
coming.
If you're inside, you just have
So
to
you
kind
like
of bounce
a-
around and like randomly think you're getting out of the way to make yourself a hard target. If you're outside, it's like dodgeball.
Do you zigzag? Do you
No,
don't
it
run in a
doesn't-
straight line. Right?
It doesn't. You watch it coming. You may have to do a roll. You may have to do a jump.
Stop and roll.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to do something. You may just have to hold your hand up. You know. I
Put
don't
your
know.
hands over your head.
Put
Yeah,
your hands over your head.
Okay. Duck,
Yeah, what-
Benny
you know,
Hinn? Is it Benny Hinn show?
duck and cover. All right.
Right.
All right. Great. I'm thinking you don't really see the space debris that hits you.
No.
Right. If you see it, you're okay.
Yeah.
The one that's going to hit you, you're not going to see. Right.
That's right.
I'm assuming. All right. Well, look. Are you worried? I'm not worried. If it's my time, look. If that's how I go, At least I'll be famous, right?
Yes.
Look, I'm paranoid enough to think that, look, they know. I mean, it's if you can use simple calculus to figure out how to put a spaceship on Mars,
Yeah.
we can figure out where that thing's going. I think the only reason they're not telling us is because they're trying to get me.
Wait a minute. You just gave me an idea for a great conspiracy theory. Feature this. They know they don't want to panic the public. They can't say it's heading for Midtown Manhattan. They can't say.
That's
Or-
exactly right.
That's a movie,
no.
right?
Or-
That would be a movie.
Or Jack, if you keep it out there and you're like, well, we can't quite pinpoint it, and you keep it out there in the public domain and people keep talking about it, then it takes the focus off of everything else, like the very poor job we're doing
Oh!
jobs
Trish,
and the
what?
economy and
Hey,
yes.
A diversion?
So I think it's a diversion or a deflection
But
program.
wouldn't you think, because it's the government, Jack, that at least the announcement ought to be, look, we've used all the figures and all the equations, we've factored it into the computer, we can't tell where it's going to land, so don't worry at all. But by the way, hey, you people in Manhattan, I would, hey, wouldn't it be nice to be down at the
Yeah.
beach this weekend and evacuate the whole frigging city quickly?
But also, Jimmy, if you're the government, let's be honest, and we're not playing partisan politics here, it's been a bad decade or so. You can't be wrong. So if you were to say,
right.
we believe it is southeastern Missouri, and then you're wrong, so you don't, there's no way to win. Pinpointing it wouldn't help, because you might be a little off. Warning a large area and having people panic more. They say when people try to evacuate, more people get killed in the evacuation than would probably get killed by the event they're evacuating from. So it's a no-win situation. But the more I think about this, the more I think, yeah, they do know. They must know more or less where this thing is coming down. Like when the Apollo astronauts would come back, right? That capsule would land. They'd have the Navy ships racing out. Remember we'd watch on TV? Clearly they weren't saying, well, gee, we have no idea
Where
where
it's
in the
gonna go.
world these guys will be.
Yeah.
So they know. They have some idea. All right. This week was the official repeal of Don't Ask, Don't Tell. And the question we asked our listeners was, will this be a major deal in the military for all the political brouhaha that it's engendered? Is this actually going to matter in the military, or is this going to kind of come and go very, sort of in a very low-key way? What do you think, Trish?
Did you see the soldier who was on the debates last night that they took? I think it was
Yes.
on YouTube, and
Yeah.
he was coming out and basically owned
Right.
up to the fact that he was gay and he was in the
Right.
military. So
Right.
I don't think it's going to be as big a deal as everybody makes it out to be. Quite
I feel like both
honestly,
sides
right.
kind of oversold us.
Exactly, I totally agree with
Yeah.
you. I mean, I think it's much ado about a whole lot of nothing. So
It is going to be expensive because you have to change all the manuals and everybody's got to go through the training. So in a time that the military can't afford to spend any more money, we're going to spend more money.
What about the argument, people say, Jimmy, we shouldn't do social engineering in the military, it's not the place for it, we're at war.
I don't know. This is just it's so collateral to what you do in the military. I knew a gay person once, and
Once?
he was pretty confident. I wouldn't think it was that big a deal, and I think the military can deal with it. If there's a brouhaha, it'll probably be like a 72-hour deal, and then they'll move on with their lives.
In fact, it seems like people in the military always start this discussion when they talk about it. They always begin by saying, "Well, of course there are many gay people in the military, or we always have had them, or I knew when I was in the military, I knew some of the guys were gay." I mean, this isn't the introduction of
Exactly.
gay people into the military, right?
Well,
This is
come
just
on, it's like when we were all in elementary and middle school or high school or whatever, and don't you think, despite the fact that some kid said, I'm gay or whatever, there's a sense, okay?
I feel
there's
personally
just
like it's a much bigger deal if you start putting like women on submarines or on the front lines of battle. I'm not saying I'm automatically against that, but wouldn't that would be a much bigger deal? I think, right?